We've all been there, faced with a situation that feels like a battle, whether it's with a difficult colleague, a challenging friend, or even a frustrating circumstance. It's easy to think that the only way to overcome these challenges is through confrontation, fighting for your position, proving your point, or standing your ground. But what if the true power lies not in the fight itself, but in the way you choose to approach the conflict? The Stoics, those ancient philosophers who faced life's toughest challenges with remarkable calm, taught us a different way to deal with conflict. They didn't believe in avoiding adversity, but they understood that true strength comes from within. From mastering our reactions, from choosing when and where to engage, and from turning conflict into an opportunity for growth, rather than a battle to be won. In today's episode, we are diving into 12 Stoic strategies to overcome your enemy, not through fighting, but through understanding, wisdom, and self-control. These principles, though centuries old, are just as relevant today, offering a path to navigate any conflict with grace and strength. So if you are ready to learn how to turn even the most challenging situations into opportunities for peace and personal growth, keep listening. 1. Understand your opponent deeply and use your knowledge to your advantage. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where the more you try to argue your point, the more you feel like you're not getting anywhere? It's frustrating, isn't it? You think you have all the right answers, but something keeps blocking your path. Here's the thing: the Stoics understood that true power doesn't come from the loudest voice or the sharpest words. It comes from knowing the situation and the person you are up against better than anyone else. Understanding your opponent is the first step in Stoic conflict resolution. It's not about defeating them, it's about using the information at your disposal to guide the situation in a way that works to your advantage. This doesn't mean manipulating or controlling the other person. It means seeing the bigger picture and understanding their motivations, fears, and needs. By doing this, you can better navigate the conflict without having to engage in a heated exchange. Let's take a moment to reflect on a personal example. Imagine you are at work and you are dealing with a colleague who's always criticizing your ideas. On the surface, it might seem like the only way to handle this is to defend yourself or challenge them back. But what if instead you took a step back and tried to understand what's really going on with them? Perhaps they're insecure about their own ideas, or maybe they feel threatened by your success. Knowing this allows you to approach the situation with empathy, making it more likely that you'll come to a mutual understanding without the need for a confrontation. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This wisdom reminds us that the true power in any conflict comes from listening and understanding. When you take the time to truly listen and understand the other person's perspective, you disarm the situation. You no longer have to fight. They may even end up agreeing with you, or at the very least, respecting your position. Understanding your opponent's deeper motivations gives you an edge because you are no longer reacting emotionally. Instead, you are acting with purpose, guided by wisdom. This approach doesn't require force. It requires insight, patience, and self-control. 2. Choose your battles wisely. Not every conflict deserves your attention in life. We often find ourselves caught in arguments or situations that, upon reflection, were not worth the energy we spent. It is easy to fall into the trap of thinking that every challenge requires a response, or that every disagreement demands our attention. But the Stoics, wise philosophers of ancient times, knew better. They understood that not every battle is worth fighting, and sometimes the most powerful move you can make is simply walking away. Imagine this: you are in a conversation and someone says something that bothers you. In the moment you feel the urge to respond, maybe to defend your point of view or to correct them. But think for a moment what would happen if you didn't react at all. The Stoics would suggest that in many cases, silence and detachment are the wisest responses. Not every conflict deserves our time and energy, especially when engaging with it will only drain us or create unnecessary tension. Take a step back and think about the bigger picture. When we engage in petty conflicts or arguments that don't align with our values, we waste precious time. We divert our focus from what truly matters, our personal growth, our relationships, and our peace of mind. By choosing which battles to fight, we can conserve energy for the situations that truly matter, the ones that have the potential to bring about real change or growth. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that the only thing he could control was his reaction. He said, "If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it." In this simple advice, Marcus was teaching us that we don't need to respond to every provocation. If a conflict doesn't align with your values or doesn't contribute to your growth, it's often better to step back and let it pass. This doesn't mean avoiding challenges or staying silent when something important is at stake, but rather it's about recognizing when engaging in conflict serves no purpose but to waste your energy. Let's consider another example. Perhaps you have a friend who always seems to put you down or make passive-aggressive comments. Initially, you might feel the need to defend yourself to prove them wrong, but then you pause and ask yourself, is this person truly adding value to my life, or am I giving them too much space in my mental and emotional world? By taking a Stoic approach, you realize that this is not a battle worth engaging in. You don't need to prove anything to them, and you certainly don't need to invest your energy in someone who continuously undermines your worth. Choosing your battles wisely also involves prioritizing your mental and emotional well-being. It's easy to get swept up in the emotions of a situation, especially when someone challenges us or disagrees with us. But the Stoics understood that maintaining inner peace is more important than winning an argument. When we fight battles that don't serve us, we risk losing our peace and energy in the process. Ultimately, by applying the Stoic principle of discernment, we gain the ability to assess a situation before reacting. Not every challenge requires a confrontation. In many cases, the strongest move is to remain calm, detach, and refocus our energy on the things that matter. The power of choosing your battles lies in your ability to remain grounded, to avoid being pulled into unnecessary conflicts, and to focus on what truly contributes to your peace, growth, and purpose in life. 3. Speak calmly and clearly. Diplomacy is more powerful than shouting in the heat of a conflict. The instinct to raise our voices, defend ourselves, or make our point loud and clear is strong. We've all been there, caught in the moment, desperate to be heard, to prove that we are right. But the Stoics understood something crucial. True power doesn't come from shouting, but from speaking with calmness, clarity, and purpose. Diplomacy, rather than aggression, is often the most effective way to handle any situation. Imagine you are in a meeting at work and someone criticizes your idea in front of everyone. Your first instinct might be to raise your voice, argue back, and defend yourself. But think for a moment, what does that accomplish? Sure, it might temporarily silence the person, but it also escalates the situation and creates tension. On the other hand, if you respond calmly, speaking clearly and thoughtfully, you have the opportunity to guide the conversation in a way that makes your point without creating unnecessary conflict. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, frequently reflected on the importance of maintaining a calm mind, especially in times of conflict. He believed that one of the keys to wisdom was the ability to remain steady and composed no matter what external circumstances tried to disturb our peace. He said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, when someone tries to provoke you, the greatest power you can demonstrate is by remaining composed and dignified, refusing to engage in their emotional chaos. Speaking calmly doesn't mean being passive or letting others walk all over you. It's about asserting your position in a way that is respectful and firm without being confrontational. The Stoic approach teaches us that words have power, but only when used intentionally. When we speak with clarity and control, we show that we are in charge of our emotions, not the other way around. This ability to remain grounded allows us to navigate any conflict with grace, ensuring that we maintain our peace while effectively communicating our point of view.
Let's consider a situation in which someone insults you. It's easy to feel hurt and retaliate with harsh words, but this only keeps the conflict going. On the other hand, if you calmly acknowledge their comment without reacting emotionally, you take away their power to disturb your peace. By doing so, you not only maintain control over the situation, but you also maintain control over yourself.
Something that is far more important than winning the argument. The beauty of diplomacy lies in its ability to shift the dynamic of a conversation. When you remain calm, you disarm your opponent's aggression. You put yourself in a position where you can choose the next step wisely. Whether it's agreeing, finding common ground, or simply moving on without escalating the situation. It's not about suppressing your feelings or avoiding confrontation. It's about choosing the best approach to get your point across without unnecessary drama by choosing calmness and clarity over aggression. You empower yourself and maintain control of the narrative. The Stoics didn't shy away from difficult conversations, but they knew that speaking calmly and clearly was the most effective way to overcome an enemy without resorting to conflict. 4. Find common ground and turn your opponent into an ally. In every conflict, there lies an opportunity to turn an adversary into an ally. This concept may sound counterintuitive at first, but the Stoics understood the deep power of finding common ground with those we may disagree with. Rather than seeing others as opponents to be defeated, Stoic wisdom teaches us to view them as individuals with whom we share common humanity. Through understanding and cooperation, we can transform even the most challenging situations into opportunities for collaboration and growth. Think of a time when you disagreed with someone, perhaps a colleague or a friend. In the heat of the moment, it can be easy to focus solely on the differences between you, turning the situation into an us versus them dynamic. But what if, instead of amplifying those differences, you took a step back and focused on what you shared in common? What do you both want at the end of the day? What values do you both hold dear? When you take the time to truly understand the other person's perspective, you open the door to empathy and connection, and that's where the power of turning an opponent into an ally lies. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often wrote about the importance of understanding others, especially in times of conflict. He said, "Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following: what are the things that they have in common with me? What are the things that I have done or am still doing that are similar?" In this simple yet profound question, Marcus teaches us that before we judge, we must first recognize our shared experiences and common values. By doing this, we can transform adversarial situations into opportunities for mutual understanding and collaboration. Imagine you are working on a project at work, and you are at odds with a colleague about the direction the project should take. Instead of digging in your heels and fighting for your perspective, consider what the common goal is: the success of the project. By shifting your focus from winning the argument to finding a solution that benefits both parties, you open the door to collaboration. You may discover that your colleagues' ideas, though different from yours, offer valuable insights that can make the project even stronger. The Stoic principle of Simtha, the idea that we are all part of a greater whole, teaches us that conflict doesn't need to be divisive. Instead, it can be an opportunity to come together and work toward a common goal. When we approach disagreements with the mindset of cooperation rather than confrontation, we not only find more effective solutions, but we also build stronger, more meaningful relationships. In relationships, this approach can be just as powerful. Instead of seeing your partner's or friend's differing opinion as a threat, try to understand where they are coming from. What shared values or concerns can you both rally around by focusing on what unites you? You can find common ground and resolve conflicts more gracefully, turning what was once an adversarial situation into a partnership. Ultimately, the Stoic wisdom here is clear. In every conflict, there's an opportunity to turn an enemy into an ally, not by defeating them, but by understanding them. By finding common ground, we can overcome conflict, not through force, but through collaboration and mutual respect. In doing so, we transform challenges into stepping stones for growth and build stronger, more harmonious connections with those around us. 5. Appeal to their core values to influence them deeply in any conflict. One of the most powerful tools at your disposal is the ability to understand and appeal to the core values of the other person. This approach, grounded in Stoic wisdom, is not about manipulating or controlling others. It's about recognizing what truly matters to them and speaking to that deeper sense of purpose. When you align your arguments or actions with the values that are central to your opponent's worldview, you don't just change the course of the conversation, you shift the dynamic entirely. Think about a time when you've had a disagreement with someone, whether it was a colleague, a family member, or a friend. The typical response might be to present facts or argue your position until they're forced to see things your way. But have you ever stopped to think about what motivates them at a deeper level? What do they care about most? What values drive their decisions? The Stoics taught that by appealing to the things that matter most to someone, you not only gain their attention, but also create the possibility for meaningful influence. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations often reflected on the importance of understanding the inner workings of the people around him. He believed that true wisdom was in knowing the motives and desires of others and aligning your actions with those truths. By appealing to their core values, we can communicate in a way that resonates with their own sense of purpose, which makes them more likely to listen and respond in kind. For example, let's say you are having a disagreement with a colleague who values efficiency above all else. Instead of focusing on your need for creativity or individuality, you could frame your argument around the idea that your approach will actually improve efficiency in the long run. By showing that you understand what matters most to them, efficiency, you are more likely to persuade them because you are speaking their language. It's not about changing their values, but about presenting your ideas in a way that aligns with what they hold dear. This approach can also be applied in personal relationships. Imagine you are in a disagreement with a loved one and the tension is rising. If you know that their core value is trust, you might appeal to this value by reassuring them of your commitment to being honest and transparent. By connecting your actions and words to what they deeply care about, you create a bridge of understanding that helps to de-escalate the conflict and bring both sides closer together. Appealing to someone's core values is a deeply Stoic approach because it doesn't rely on forced manipulation or control. Instead, it's based on respect for the other person's humanity and a recognition that despite differences, we all share fundamental desires and principles. By tapping into those values, you invite cooperation rather than opposition, building a foundation for mutual understanding and respect. Ultimately, the Stoic lesson here is that true influence comes from a place of empathy and wisdom. By understanding what matters most to others and framing your perspective in a way that aligns with those values, you can turn a confrontation into a conversation and a conflict into an opportunity for deeper connection. This is the power of appealing to core values, not to manipulate, but to connect, to collaborate, and to influence in a way that is rooted in mutual respect and understanding. 6. Use humor carefully to diffuse tension without causing offense. Humor, when used thoughtfully, can be one of the most effective tools for diffusing tension in a difficult situation. The Stoics understood that life is filled with challenges and adversity, and they didn't shy away from the fact that these difficulties can sometimes cause stress and frustration. But they also understood the power of perspective. Seeing the humor in a situation can help lighten the mood, break down barriers, and even foster a sense of connection between people. Think about a time when you were in a heated conversation or disagreement. The air was thick with tension, and every word seemed to make things worse. Then someone cracked a joke or made a light-hearted comment, and just like that, the tension started to lift. That's the magic of humor. It has the ability to reset the emotional tone of a conversation and shift people's perspectives. However, the key to using humor effectively lies in how it is delivered. The Stoics believe that virtue, including wisdom and moderation, should govern every aspect of life, even humor. This means that humor should not be used as a weapon to mock, belittle, or manipulate others. Instead, it should be used to bring people together, to soften difficult conversations, and to remind everyone involved that life doesn't always have to be taken so seriously. In his meditations, Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the absurdity of life and the importance of maintaining a sense of humor in the face of adversity. He wrote about the fleeting nature of human existence and the importance of laughing at ourselves rather than taking offense at every little thing. The ability to laugh at life's challenges instead of becoming consumed by them is a Stoic virtue that helps to maintain emotional balance and inner peace. Take a moment to imagine being in a tense situation. Perhaps a disagreement with a friend or a disagreement at work. Now, instead of escalating the situation with anger or frustration, imagine diffusing it with a well-timed, light-hearted comment that makes everyone laugh. Not a sarcastic or passive-aggressive joke, but something genuine that highlights the absurdity of the conflict and helps everyone realize that the issue at hand is often much smaller than it feels in the moment. Humor doesn't just lighten the mood, it also humanizes the situation. It reminds us that even in conflict, we are all in this together. It's a way of connecting with others in a shared vulnerable moment that breaks down walls and allows for empathy and understanding. But as with all things, Stoic moderation is key. Humor should not be used as a distraction from the issue or as a way to avoid addressing something important. It should be used thoughtfully to ease tension and bring people closer. Rather than to dismiss or diminish the concerns of others, the Stoics recognize that humor is a powerful tool, but like all tools, it must be used with intention and respect. When wielded wisely, it can transform even the most challenging conflicts into moments of connection and understanding. By using humor with care, you create an environment where tension fades, and the focus shifts away from the conflict and toward a more peaceful, collaborative solution. It's about finding balance, using humor to soften the edges of a difficult situation without undermining its seriousness or importance. 7. Leverage empathy as a tool for influence, not just for peacemaking. Empathy is often seen as the cornerstone of peacemaking. We are told that to resolve conflicts we must understand and share the feelings of others. But the Stoics went beyond seeing empathy as a mere tool for avoiding conflict. They recognized it as one of the most powerful ways to influence others, build trust, and navigate any disagreement with grace. When you approach a situation with empathy, you don't just diffuse tension. You connect on a deeper level, making it easier to guide the situation in the direction you want. Think about a time when you were in the middle of a tense conversation. You might have been frustrated or upset, but then someone took a moment to truly listen to your side and understand how you were feeling. Immediately you felt heard, and that simple act of empathy likely made you more open to their perspective. That's the power of empathy, not just as a tool for creating peace, but as a means of building bridges in relationships and influencing outcomes. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus often emphasized the importance of recognizing the humanity in others. He believed that by understanding the struggles, fears, and desires of others, we could more effectively navigate any conflict rather than seeing others as obstacles or enemies. The Stoics taught us to see them as fellow travelers on the path of life, each with their own set of challenges and desires. By acknowledging this, we gain the ability to influence them more effectively, not through force, but through understanding. Take, for example, a situation at work where you are dealing with a colleague who's become hostile or defensive. Instead of immediately defending your position or getting frustrated, take a moment to put yourself in their shoes. What might they be feeling? Are they under stress? Are they dealing with personal issues? By understanding their emotional state, you can adjust your approach and frame your argument in a way that speaks to their concerns. This doesn't mean compromising your values, but it does mean communicating in a way that resonates with them. Empathy also allows you to see beyond the surface level of a conflict. It helps you uncover the underlying needs or desires that might be driving the other person's behavior. When you understand what they truly want, whether it's validation, respect, or security, you can shape the conversation in a way that addresses those needs while still advancing your own goals. This doesn't turn conflict into an easy fix, but it does turn it into a productive, constructive exchange where both sides are more likely to leave feeling heard and respected. The Stoics weren't naive. They understood that life often puts us in situations where we may need to influence others to achieve our goals, but they also understood that this influence should come from a place of understanding and respect, not manipulation or aggression. When we use empathy as a tool for influence, we create a dynamic where cooperation is more likely than confrontation. This approach fosters a sense of shared humanity that leads to mutual respect, even in the midst of disagreement. By practicing empathy, you not only become a more effective communicator, but you also become a more powerful influence in your relationships and in your professional life. Rather than trying to control others or force your ideas upon them, you can lead them through understanding, collaboration, and mutual respect. It's about transforming conflict into an opportunity for connection, where both sides feel valued, heard, and understood. 8. Master the art of compromise without sacrificing your position. One of the most challenging aspects of any conflict is finding a way to meet halfway without giving up what matters most to you. The Stoics, however, understood that wisdom often lies in the delicate art of compromise, but compromise, according to Stoic philosophy, isn't about losing ground. It's about choosing what's worth holding onto and what's worth letting go. The key is to preserve your integrity and principles while still being open to the needs and perspectives of others. Think about a time when you were in a disagreement, perhaps with a friend, family member, or colleague. In the heat of the moment, it can be easy to feel like you have to either win or lose. There's no middle ground, but the Stoic view of compromise is different. It's not about seeing things as a zero-sum game where one side wins and the other loses. Instead, it's about recognizing that sometimes mutual understanding and collaboration can lead to a solution that honors both parties' needs without either side losing their core values. The Stoic philosopher Seneca reflected on the idea of compromise in his letters, explaining that true strength isn't about being rigid and unyielding, but about being flexible in your approach to life. He wrote, "A wise man is one who, when he finds a situation where he is forced to choose, considers what is essential and what is not." This idea is at the heart of Stoic thinking. Instead of stubbornly holding on to everything we want, we need to reflect on what's truly necessary and what we can let go of in order to reach a resolution that works for everyone involved. Let's consider a situation where you are negotiating a project deadline with a colleague. Perhaps you want more time to perfect your work, while your colleague needs the project completed quickly. Instead of fighting for more time at the expense of their needs, think about how you can find a middle ground. Maybe you can agree to a deadline that gives you just enough time to do your best work while also accommodating their urgency. The key is to balance your priorities, and by doing so, you ensure that you are still meeting your needs without compromising on your principles. This doesn't mean you should give in to every demand or sacrifice your beliefs to keep the peace. It means that you understand that conflict resolution is often about prioritizing what's essential in Stoic thinking. It's important to ask yourself, what can I let go of without losing my integrity? The Stoics recognize that the ability to adapt without compromising what is truly valuable to us is a form of strength. The beauty of compromise from a Stoic perspective is that it doesn't require defeat. It's not about giving up what you stand for. It's about finding a way to honor both sides, navigating the situation with wisdom, and emerging with your dignity intact. In doing so, you can transform a potential confrontation into a cooperative exchange where both parties feel respected and valued. Ultimately, mastering the art of compromise means being willing to bend without breaking. It's about recognizing that in life some things are worth yielding on while others are not. The Stoics teach us that the ability to compromise without sacrificing our essential principles is a hallmark of true wisdom. 9. Make forgiveness a tool of strength, not a sign of weakness. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. In our society, we may associate forgiveness with weakness, as if letting go of past wrongs somehow diminishes our strength or sense of justice. But the Stoic saw forgiveness as a tool of power, a way to reclaim your inner peace and release yourself from the emotional burden that conflict brings. When you forgive, you are not condoning the actions of others. You are choosing to free yourself from the chains of resentment and anger. Imagine holding on to a grudge for years, feeling bitter, angry, or hurt by something someone did to you in the past. In doing so, you carry this emotional weight with you, allowing the actions of others to continue influencing your life in ways they shouldn't. It can affect your relationships, your peace of mind, and your overall well-being. The Stoics understood that we can't control the actions of others, but we have full control over how we respond to them. Forgiving in this sense is a way of choosing how you will carry yourself in the face of adversity. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations wrote about the importance of accepting human imperfection. He said, "How much time you have wasted in thinking, if only this had been done or that happened." Let go of these illusions for Marcus. Forgiveness was not just a personal act, but a practical one. When we clinging to anger or resentment, we are the ones who suffer the most. It weighs us down, occupies our thoughts. and takes up space in our hearts that could be used for something far more constructive. Letting go of these negative emotions through forgiveness doesn't make us weak. It makes us stronger, for we free ourselves from the past and take back control of our emotional state. Forgiveness doesn't mean that we forget what happened or that we allow harmful behavior to continue unchecked. It's a decision to release the emotional hold that a situation has over us. When you forgive, you are choosing not to let another person's actions define your peace. Instead, you take charge of your emotional landscape, allowing yourself to move forward with a clean slate. Take a situation where someone wronged you, perhaps a friend who betrayed your trust, or a colleague who took credit for your work. Instead of letting these actions fester and take over your thoughts, the Stoic approach is to reflect on the bigger picture. Understand that people are often driven by their own struggles and insecurities. By forgiving them, you're not excusing their behavior, but you're choosing to release yourself from the ongoing resentment that only hurts you. When we hold on to grudges, we are in essence giving someone else control over our lives. Forgiveness is about taking that control back, choosing to live with peace rather than allowing negativity to seep into our daily lives. It doesn't mean that you need to reconcile with the person or continue a relationship with them. It simply means that you're no longer allowing their actions to have power over you. The Stoics understood that life is too short to be wasted on negative emotions. They believed in living a life focused on virtue, wisdom, and inner tranquility. Forgiveness is a powerful practice that allows us to embody these virtues. It helps us shed the weight of anger, resentment, and regret, emotions that only serve to distract us from what is truly important. In the end, forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about you. It's about your ability to rise above the negativity and choose peace. It's about reclaiming your emotional well-being and moving forward without being shackled by the past. When you forgive, you are not being weak. You are being strong enough to let go of what no longer serves you and make room for the positive energy that will help you grow. 10. Transform conflict into an opportunity for personal growth. Conflicts are an inevitable part of life. We all face them, whether in relationships, at work, or within ourselves. But what if instead of viewing conflict as a negative force that drains us, we saw it as an opportunity for growth? The Stoics were masters of this mindset. They believed that adversity, when faced with the right perspective, could be a powerful catalyst for personal transformation. Imagine you are in the middle of a difficult situation. Perhaps you've had a falling out with a friend or colleague, or you are struggling with a challenging decision. In the moment, it's easy to feel frustrated, hurt, or overwhelmed, but instead of letting the conflict control your emotions, the Stoic approach teaches us to see this as a moment of learning. Every challenge holds a lesson, and every conflict has the potential to reveal something valuable about ourselves. Seneca, in his writings, reminds us that difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. This powerful idea encapsulates the Stoic view of conflict. It's not something to avoid, but something to embrace as an opportunity to become better. When we are faced with a challenge, we are forced to confront our weaknesses, test our resilience, and reflect on what we truly value. The ability to transform conflict into personal growth comes from the recognition that the true battle is not against the other person, but against ourselves. For example, when you face criticism, it's easy to react defensively, to reject what's being said and feel hurt. But what if you use that moment to pause and ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What is this criticism telling me about how I can improve? By reframing the conflict as a learning experience, you begin to take control of the situation, shifting your focus from external events to your own growth. Instead of feeling victimized, You empower yourself to use the feedback as a tool for self-improvement. This mindset shift doesn't just apply to criticism. It can be applied to any conflict. Maybe you are going through a tough time in a relationship. Rather than seeing it as a failure, ask yourself what it's teaching you about communication, boundaries, or compassion. Every disagreement, every challenge is an opportunity to learn more about who you are, what you value, and how you can become a better person. By viewing conflict as an opportunity for growth, you take away its power to hurt you. You begin to see challenges as stepping stones, not stumbling blocks. It's like a muscle that gets stronger the more you use it. The more you learn to navigate conflict with the mindset of growth, the more resilient you become. Not just in dealing with others, but in dealing with the inner battles we all face. The Stoics didn't shy away from adversity because they knew it was through adversity that we build strength. They believed that our ability to face challenges with grace and wisdom determines the quality of our lives. So the next time you find yourself in a difficult situation, instead of thinking of it as a problem, ask yourself, what can this teach me? How can this experience help me grow? By doing so, you turn every conflict into an opportunity for personal development and inner peace. 11. Set boundaries that protect you without creating enemies. One of the most important lessons the Stoics taught was the importance of personal boundaries in a world that often demands more from us than we can give. Learning to set clear and healthy boundaries is an essential practice for maintaining your peace and well-being. But setting boundaries doesn't have to mean cutting people off or creating enemies. It's about knowing where you stand and communicating that in a way that preserves your integrity without causing unnecessary conflict. Consider a situation where you feel overwhelmed by someone's demands. Maybe it's a colleague who always expects you to stay late, or a friend who continuously seeks your help without considering your time or energy. In these moments, it's easy to feel torn between wanting to be helpful and recognizing that you need to protect your own time and energy. The Stoic approach is not to allow guilt or fear of confrontation to dictate your actions, but instead to calmly and assertively communicate your limits. As Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This is the essence of setting boundaries. It's not about what the other person wants, but about how you handle their requests in a way that respects both their needs and your own. By setting clear boundaries, you are not being selfish or unkind. You are simply taking responsibility for your own well-being and ensuring that you don't become overwhelmed or resentful. Setting boundaries can be difficult, especially if you fear upsetting others or being perceived as rude. But it's important to remember that true respect comes from honesty. If you are always saying yes to things that drain you, you are not respecting yourself, and ultimately, you won't be able to give your best to anyone. Healthy boundaries allow you to conserve your energy for what truly matters and to engage with others in a way that is respectful, kind, and sustainable. This doesn't mean being rigid or inflexible. The Stoics valued flexibility and adaptability, but they also understood that certain things such as your time, your peace of mind, and your energy are yours to protect. For example, if a colleague continuously asks for your help at the expense of your own responsibilities, it's important to communicate your limits. A simple, calm response like "I'd love to help, but I'm tied up with other commitments" right now sets a boundary without creating hostility or conflict in relationships. Boundaries are just as important. Maybe you have a friend who tends to overwhelm you with their problems or seeks your emotional support without reciprocating. Setting a boundary in this situation doesn't mean rejecting the person. It means being clear about what you can offer and when "I'm here for you, but I need some time to recharge after our conversation is a healthy boundary that protects your emotional well-being without severing the connection. Ultimately, the Stoic philosophy teaches us that boundaries are a form of self-care, not selfishness. They are a way to protect our time, energy, and peace of mind, so that we can engage with the world in a way that aligns with our values and priorities. By setting clear and respectful boundaries, we not only protect ourselves from burnout, but we also create healthier, more sustainable relationships with those around us. 12. Control your reactions and turn them into a strategic weapon. In any conflict, the one thing you can always control is your reaction. The Stoics believe that external events are beyond our power, but our response to them is fully within our control. This powerful principle can be your greatest ally, transforming what might seem like a stressful, difficult situation into a chance to showcase your strength, composure, and strategic thinking. By mastering your reactions, you not only protect your peace of mind, but also turn every challenge into an opportunity to grow stronger and more resilient. Think about a time when something or someone provoked you, perhaps a colleague undermined your work or a friend said something hurtful. It's easy to react impulsively, to let our emotions take the wheel. The instinct is often to defend ourselves, lash out, or retaliate. But the Stoic approach is to pause, to take a breath, and to reflect before responding. As Epictetus wisely said, we are disturbed, not by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens. The key here is realizing that our emotional reactions are not automatic. They're shaped by our perceptions and beliefs. When we choose to respond with calm and thoughtfulness, we disarm the conflict and maintain our dignity. Our reaction becomes a tool, a weapon we wield strategically, allowing us to navigate even the most challenging situations with wisdom and grace. Instead of reacting out of anger or fear, we react out of clarity, strength, and control. For example, imagine a heated argument with a colleague. They make a critical comment, and you feel the urge to respond defensively instead of immediately firing back. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what's the most constructive way to handle this? Perhaps you realize that getting defensive won't serve you in the long run. Instead, you can choose to respond calmly, focusing on the issue at hand and leaving emotions aside. In doing so, you show that you are in control of yourself and the situation, which often diffuses the tension and earns you respect. This ability to control our reactions also extends to how we handle criticism. If someone critiques your work, you might feel hurt or frustrated, but the Stoic perspective encourages us to view this not as an attack, but as an opportunity to learn. By controlling your reaction, you can listen to the feedback with an open mind, extract the valuable lessons from it, and use it to improve your future efforts. In this way, your reaction becomes a strategic tool for growth rather than a reflexive response that escalates the conflict. The beauty of controlling your reactions is that it puts you in a position of power, not over others, but over yourself. You become less susceptible to being swept up in external circumstances and more capable of responding in a way that aligns with your values and goals. Instead of reacting impulsively to every slight or inconvenience, you gain the ability to respond intentionally, turning every challenge into a chance to refine your character and move closer to your ideal self. In a world that often encourages quick reactions and emotional responses, the Stoic practice of controlling your reactions is a radical act of self-mastery. It's not about suppressing emotions, it's about choosing how to express them. By mastering your reactions, you turn every external conflict into an internal opportunity to practice patience, clarity, and wisdom. In doing so, you strengthen your ability to handle whatever life throws your way with calmness, resilience, and strategic insight. As we wrap up today's episode, it's clear that the Stoic approach to overcoming conflict is all about mastering the internal rather than fighting the external. The wisdom shared by the Stoics reminds us that true strength lies in how we respond to life's challenges. By understanding our opponents, choosing our battles wisely, speaking calmly, finding common ground, and using empathy, we unlock the power to navigate conflict with grace, intelligence, and purpose. But most importantly, we learn that the key to winning any battle doesn't always lie in defeating the other person. Instead, it lies in our ability to maintain control over our emotions, to forgive, to compromise, and to see conflict as a chance for personal growth. Every disagreement, every struggle holds the potential for a lesson, an opportunity to become a wiser, more resilient version of ourselves. So next time you face a challenge or encounter an enemy, remember, the Stoics didn't shy away from conflict, but they transformed it. They used it as a tool to refine their character, sharpen their wisdom, and strengthen their resolve. You have the power to do the same. If you found these Stoic principles helpful, take a moment to reflect on how you can apply them in your life. Which battle can you let go of? Where can you practice more empathy? What conflict can you transform into an opportunity for growth today? Remember, every conflict is a chance to rise, to learn, and to evolve into the person you are meant to be. Thank you for joining me on this journey of Stoic wisdom, and I hope you are leaving with a new perspective on how to face life's challenges without ever needing to raise your voice. Let's be real. We all have a past. Some parts of it are beautiful moments of joy, accomplishments, and growth. But then there are other parts we'd rather forget: the mistakes, the failures, and the moments we wish we could undo. These are the moments that often stick with us, replaying in our minds, reminding us of who we once were and making us feel like we can never escape that version of ourselves. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, "I'll never be able to move beyond what I've done," or "my past is holding me back"? It's a trap. Many of us fall into believing that our past somehow dictates our future. But here's the truth. Your past doesn't have to control your future. It's part of your story, yes, but it's not the whole book. You have the power to rewrite the chapters that are still to come. In this episode, we'll explore how to never let your past define your future. The past is a part of you, but it is not the entirety of who you are. It doesn't have to shape the life you are creating now. You have the ability to take control, to transform your narrative, and to redefine who you are starting today. 1. Own your past, but refuse to be trapped by it. Have you ever found yourself stuck in a cycle of regret, constantly replaying past mistakes in your mind? Maybe there's something in your history that keeps creeping into your present, limiting your potential. Perhaps it's a mistake, a failure, or a painful memory that keeps telling you who you are and what you are capable of. But here's the truth. You are not your past, and what happened to you doesn't have to control who you are today. Owning your past means acknowledging it. It means saying, yes, that happened. Yes, I made mistakes, and yes, I experienced pain. But owning your past doesn't mean being owned by it. Your past is a part of you, but it's not the whole story. Too many people get caught up in the idea that their past defines them. They believe that their failures or hardships are like chains they'll never be able to break free from, but that's not true. The Stoics understood this concept deeply. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength."
What Marcus was reminding us is that we can't change the past, but we can control how we respond to it.
We don't have to let it define us. Think about it. How many times have you made a mistake, and instead of learning from it, you let it dictate your self-worth? We all have that tendency to identify with our past, but if you let your past mistakes or painful experiences define you, you are giving away your power to something that no longer serves you.
So how do we break free from this cycle? The first step is to acknowledge your past without letting it trap you. Recognize that you are not your failures. Your mistakes don't define who you are. They simply reflect what you've learned and what you're capable of growing from. Let's take a step back and look at your past objectively. Instead of viewing it as a source of shame, see it as a teacher. Every mistake, every setback, and every painful moment carries a lesson. The key is to extract the lesson and move forward without letting the mistakes define you. Every time you accept and learn from your past, it becomes a tool to build your future, not a weight that holds you down. One powerful way to do this is through self-reflection. Take some time today to think about the mistakes or challenges you've faced in the past. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this, and how has this shaped me in a positive way? You might be surprised by the answers when you start looking at your past through the lens of growth and learning. You free yourself from its hold. It's important to realize that your future isn't set in stone by your past. You are capable of growth and transformation every single day. Own your past. Acknowledge it, but refuse to let it be the reason you hold back. The more you focus on who you are becoming, the less power your past will have over you. You can choose to move forward, and that's the power. You have the power to decide who you will be starting today. 2. Rewrite your personal narrative. Have you ever caught yourself telling the same old story about who you are and why you can't achieve something? Maybe it's the story of "I'm just not good enough," or "I'll never succeed because of what happened in the past." These stories, though they may feel comforting, are often the very things that hold us back. The story you tell yourself shapes your reality, and if you keep telling yourself that you can't move forward, you'll never have the motivation to try. But here's the liberating truth. You have the power to rewrite your narrative. The story of who you are doesn't have to be defined by your past mistakes, the things others have said about you, or the labels you've carried for years. The story you tell yourself today can shape the person you become tomorrow. Think about it. How many times have you let a past failure or experience define your capabilities? Maybe you tried something and it didn't work out, and now you've been carrying that failure around, convinced that it's just who you are. But you are not your mistakes. You are not what other people think of you. You are what you decide to be. The story you tell yourself today becomes the reality you live tomorrow. The Stoics were masters of changing their personal narratives. They understood that the story of who you are is constantly evolving. Marcus Aurelius in his meditations often reflected on the need to keep adjusting his perspective and his behavior to align with the person he wanted to be. He didn't let his past define him. Instead, he saw it as a chance to continue growing, evolving, and becoming the best version of himself. As he said, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. If you find yourself stuck in a negative narrative, it's time to change the script. Take a step back and think about the story you are telling yourself. Is it helping you, or is it keeping you stuck? If it's the latter, it's time to rewrite it. Maybe it's time to stop saying, "I'll never succeed," and start saying, "I'm learning, growing, and adapting to whatever comes my way." Rewriting your narrative doesn't mean ignoring your mistakes. It means choosing to see them as lessons rather than permanent labels. It means recognizing that you have the power to create your future no matter where you've been. A simple exercise you can try today is to sit down and write your personal narrative as if you were telling your story to someone else. But here's the twist. Write it as the person you are becoming, not the person you've been. Focus on how you are overcoming obstacles, how you are learning from the past, and how you are taking action toward the future you want to create. If you keep telling yourself that you are stuck, you'll stay stuck. But if you start telling yourself that you are capable of change and growth, you'll start to move toward that change step by step. Remember, the most powerful thing you can do is change the way you see yourself. The story you tell yourself today is the life you will live tomorrow. So take control of that story. Own it. Write it with intention and step into the life you are meant to create. 3. Turn past failures into a weapon, not a wound. Have you ever looked at a failure and thought, "That's it, I'm done," or "I'll never try again"? It's easy to think of failure as something to fear, something that marks the end of the road. But here's the truth. The strongest people aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who turn failure into fuel. Failure isn't the end. It's a powerful weapon, a tool you can use to sharpen your skills and push forward toward your goals. The challenge isn't avoiding failure. It's what you do when you fail. Most people see failure as a wound, something that leaves them hurt, embarrassed, or discouraged. But if you can shift your mindset and see failure as a weapon, you will turn every setback into an opportunity for growth. Instead of allowing it to defeat you, use it to propel you forward. The Stoics were brilliant at using failure as a source of strength. They didn't fear setbacks. They embraced them as part of the process. Epictetus, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, taught that failure is not the result of being inadequate. It is the result of an inability to control your reactions. In other words, it's not the failure itself that hurts us. It's how we choose to respond to it. If we let it break us, then it becomes a wound. But if we choose to learn from it, it becomes a weapon that helps us build the future we want. Let's take a look at some examples. Thomas Edison, one of history's greatest inventors, failed thousands of times before he created the light bulb. Each failure taught him something new, and each lesson brought him one step closer to success. The same is true for Michael Jordan, who famously said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games 26 times. I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Both Edison and Jordan saw failure as a lesson to learn from, not something to be ashamed of. Think about your own life. What failures have you experienced? Maybe you tried something and it didn't work out. Maybe you made a mistake that cost you something important. Instead of letting those moments define you, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to become stronger? By reframing failure in this way, you stop seeing it as a mark against you and start seeing it as a tool for growth. Turning failure into a weapon requires resilience, the ability to get up, learn, and keep moving forward. Every time you face a setback, you have a choice. You can let it defeat you, or you can use it to build your strength. It is about turning your pain into power, your mistakes into lessons, and your losses into motivation. So the next time you fail, don't see it as a wound. See it as a weapon, a tool that will make you sharper, more resilient, and more determined. Every failure is an opportunity to improve, and every setback brings you one step closer to success. 4. Cut ties with people who keep you chained to your past. Have you ever noticed how some people in your life continue to see you through the lens of your past? They remember the mistakes you made, the person you used to be, and every failure you've experienced. While their memories of you might come from a place of love, If they can't see the new version of you, it's time to reconsider their place in your life. Some people will always keep you chained to who you were, not who you've become. And it's important to recognize when it's time to let go of these connections. The past can be a heavy weight, especially when others are constantly reminding you of it. The people you surround yourself with have the power to either uplift you or hold you back. If you spend your time with people who only see your flaws or your old mistakes, it's harder to step into the new version of yourself. These relationships can make you feel like you're always fighting to prove that you've changed, but you don't need to live up to someone else's outdated version of you. The Stoics emphasized the importance of choosing your companions wisely. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations often reminded himself that our environment shapes who we are. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the people you allow into your life can either push you forward or hold you back. Surround yourself with those who align with your goals, who believe in the potential you are working to fulfill, and who challenge you to be better, not those who constantly remind you of past failures. It's difficult to cut ties with people, especially if they've been a part of your life for a long time. Maybe it's a friend who keeps bringing up your old mistakes, or a family member who doesn't support the changes you are making. These relationships can be hard to navigate because there's an emotional attachment, but the question you need to ask yourself is this relationship helping me become the person I want to be, or is it keeping me stuck in the past? Sometimes it's not about cutting people off entirely, but about setting boundaries. You don't have to sever all ties with someone who keeps you tethered to who you were, but you do need to set clear boundaries to protect your energy and your growth. If someone can't see your potential, or if they're constantly holding you to a past version of yourself, it's okay to step back and protect your own well-being. Remember, you don't need to seek validation from people who can't see the real you. Surround yourself with people who encourage your growth, who see the changes you've made, and who believe in the person you are becoming. Choose to invest your time in relationships that inspire you to be better, not in those that make you feel small or stuck. The right people will help you flourish. They'll remind you of who you are becoming, not who you were. And when you let go of the relationships that keep you tied to your past, you'll create space for the connections that will push you forward, allowing you to step fully into the future you are creating. 5. Create a vision that drowns out your past. How often do you find yourself looking back at your past, wishing things had turned out differently? It is easy to get caught in the past, replaying what could have been, what went wrong, or what mistakes you made. The problem is, as long as you are looking back, you are not moving forward. The key to breaking free from your past is to create a vision so powerful, so compelling that it drowns out the noise of what's behind you. Think about it. When you are focused on where you are going, your past loses its grip. The more obsessed you become with your future, the goals you want to achieve, the person you want to become, the less power your past will have over you. The future be your driving force, not the past. When you have a vision for your life that excites and energizes you, it becomes the lens through which you view everything. The more focused you are on the life you are creating, the less room there is for your past mistakes, regrets, and setbacks. If your vision is strong enough, it'll guide you, motivate you, and help you keep moving forward. No matter what happened before, the Stoics were masters at staying focused on what was within their control and not getting bogged down by external circumstances. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations frequently reminded himself of his purpose and the bigger picture. He understood that focusing on the future, on the life he wanted to live, was key to overcoming any challenges that came his way. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. He wrote, when you focus your thoughts on the future you want to create, the past becomes just a series of lessons, not something that holds you back. So how do you create this vision? It starts with clarity. Take some time to really think about what you want for your life. What are your goals? What kind of person do you want to become? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world? Your vision needs to be clear, vivid, and deeply connected to your values and aspirations. The clearer your vision, the more powerful it becomes. Once you have that vision, get obsessed with it. Think about it daily. Visualize it regularly. Let it fill your mind so completely that your past fades into the background. When you are passionate about where you are going, your past struggles seem small in comparison to the possibility of what's ahead. And it's not just about dreaming, it's about taking action. A vision without action is just a fantasy. Set clear goals that align with your vision and take steps every day toward making that vision a reality. When you focus on what you can do today to move toward your future, your past becomes irrelevant. It no longer has the power to define you because you are too busy building the future you've always wanted. Creating a vision that drowns out your past requires consistency and commitment. You need to remind yourself daily of where you are going and why it matters. When you are obsessed with your vision, you won't have time to look back. Your future will be so much bigger and more exciting than anything behind you. 6. Challenge every self-limiting belief. How many times have you thought, I'm just not good enough, or I'll never be able to do that? These thoughts are not uncommon. They are beliefs we carry around with us often without even realizing how powerful they can be. Self-limiting beliefs are the stories we tell ourselves about what we can and cannot do. They form based on past experiences, fears, or messages we've internalized from others. But here's the catch. Just because a belief has been a part of your life doesn't mean it's true. If you want to break free from your past, you have to start by challenging the beliefs that are keeping you stuck. These beliefs are like invisible chains. They shape your actions, limit your potential, and keep you in the confines of your comfort zone. But the good news is you have the power to change them. You are not defined by the beliefs that once held you back. The Stoics understood the power of beliefs. They knew that our perception of the world shapes our reality, and therefore we have the ability to change our lives by changing the way we think. Diffuse, one of the most renowned Stoic philosophers, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This idea is central to understanding how our self-limiting beliefs work. We may not always have control over the events in our lives, but we always have control over how we interpret them and, more importantly, how we respond to them. So what are these self-limiting beliefs? Maybe it's the belief that you are not smart enough to succeed in a new career, or that you'll always struggle with your health because you failed before. These beliefs often come from past experiences, but the problem is that they don't define your potential today. Just because you weren't successful at something in the past doesn't mean you can't succeed at it now. You are not the person you once were. You are constantly evolving, and that means your potential is always expanding. To challenge these beliefs, start by identifying them. What are the beliefs that are holding you back? When you hear that voice in your head telling you that you can't do something, ask yourself, is this belief based on fact, or is it just a story I've been telling myself? More often than not, you'll realize that these beliefs are just assumptions that are keeping you from taking action. Once you've identified your limiting beliefs, it's time to challenge them. Ask yourself, what evidence do I have that this belief is true? More often than not, you'll find that there's very little evidence to support it. Instead of focusing on what you believe you can't do, start focusing on what you can do. Look for examples in your life where you've succeeded, no matter how small. Use those examples to build a new, empowering narrative about your abilities. Here's the important part. You don't have to believe everything your mind tells you. Just because your mind tells you that you are not capable doesn't mean it's true. You have the power to change the narrative. When you start to challenge these self-limiting beliefs, you create space for new beliefs to grow, beliefs that empower you rather than hold you back. Remember, every time you challenge a belief that limits you, you are one step closer to becoming the person you want to be. It's about taking control of your thoughts and understanding that your potential is limitless, and the only thing standing in your way is what you choose to believe. 7. Act like the person you want to become. How many times have you said to yourself, "I'll start working on that once I feel more ready," or "I'll be more confident when I've learned more"? It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that change comes from simply waiting for the right moment or feeling a certain way. But here's the truth. You don't change by thinking about it. You change by doing it. You don't have to wait for the perfect conditions or for a sense of readiness. If you want to become someone different, start acting like that person today. The idea of acting like the person you want to become is rooted in the belief that our actions shape our identity. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, often reminded himself that the key to becoming a virtuous person was not just thinking about virtue, but practicing it daily. "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one," he wrote. This is the essence of acting like the person you want to become. You become the person you aspire to be by living as if you already are that person. Think about the traits you admire in others, whether it's confidence, discipline, kindness, or resilience. It is easy to think of these qualities as something you either have or don't have, but the truth is these are habits and behaviors that can be developed. You don't become disciplined by reading about discipline. You become disciplined by practicing it. You don't become confident by wishing for it. You become confident by stepping into situations where you can demonstrate confidence. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you want to be more disciplined with your fitness. It's easy to say, "I'll start working out when I feel more motivated," but that motivation often never comes. Instead, the key is to act like someone who values fitness. That means getting up and working out even when you don't feel like it. It means making it a non-negotiable part of your routine, just like any other commitment in your life. By acting like someone who values fitness, you build the discipline necessary to make it a permanent part of your life. Over time, the more you act in alignment with the person you want to be, the more natural it becomes. You don't change by thinking about change. You change by practicing it. The same applies to any other goal you have. Want to be a successful entrepreneur? Start acting like one today. Get up early. Set clear goals and take consistent action. Even if you are still in the beginning stages, want to be a confident speaker? Start speaking. Even if it's in small settings, the more you act as though you've already become the person you want to be, the faster you'll start embodying those qualities. When you act like the person you want to become, you are not waiting for a magic moment of readiness. You are creating that moment through action. It's about being proactive and taking steps every day that align with your future self. Every decision, every small step, every action is a reflection of the person you are becoming. The key here is consistency. If you keep acting in alignment with your desired self, the transformation happens slowly but surely. Eventually, you won't just be acting like the person you want to be. You'll become that person. Your actions will match, your aspirations and your identity will naturally shift to reflect the life you've been building. So stop waiting for the right moment, the right feeling, or the right conditions. Start acting now. Every small decision you make today is a building block for who you will become tomorrow. The more you act like the person you want to be, the closer you get to that reality. Your future self is already waiting for you to show up. Don't wait any longer to step into that version of you. 8. Reflect without dwelling. Learn without self-punishment. Have you ever found yourself stuck in a cycle of regret, constantly replaying your past mistakes in your mind? It's easy to fall into this trap, constantly reflecting on the things you wish you'd done differently. You can spend hours, days, or even years beating yourself up for a mistake, thinking that somehow regret will help you grow. But here's the truth. Reflection is essential for growth, but dwelling on your mistakes only keeps you stuck. The Stoics understood that growth requires self-reflection, but they also knew that dwelling on the past, especially on mistakes, was detrimental. They taught that while it's important to learn from the past, it's equally important to move on from it. Epictetus, a renowned Stoic philosopher, said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This means that the pain of our mistakes is often magnified by our overthinking. We are not just replaying the past. We are adding layers of unnecessary suffering on top of it. Reflection should serve as a tool for growth, not a prison. The goal is not to dwell on how you could have done things differently, but to extract the lesson and move forward. Mistakes are inevitable. They are not a reflection of your character, but rather a reflection of your growth process. So the key is to learn without punishing yourself. It's easy to think that if you beat yourself up enough, you'll somehow pay for your mistakes. But the truth is, self-punishment doesn't lead to growth. It leads to guilt, shame, and stagnation. The more you ruminate on the past, the more you stay tied to it. Instead, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this experience to make better choices moving forward? This shift in focus will not only help you grow, but it will allow you to let go of the past and move on with purpose. Think about the lessons you've learned through failure. Maybe you've made a bad decision in the past that cost you something important, whether it was a career opportunity, a relationship, or even your self-confidence. Instead of focusing on the failure itself, think about what it taught you. What would you do differently now? What insights have you gained that will help you make better decisions in the future? Growth comes from understanding that your past mistakes are part of the journey, but they are not the destination. You don't need to live in the past in order to learn from it. The key is to reflect on the lesson, not the pain. Take the wisdom that failure offers and then move forward with your new insights. And here's the important part: forgive yourself. The more you beat yourself up over your mistakes, the more you stay stuck in the past. Self-forgiveness is crucial for growth. Understand that you are a work in progress, and the only way to move forward is to let go of the past, reflect without dwelling, learn without punishing yourself. Use your experiences as stepping stones, not anchors. So when you make a mistake, reflect on it briefly. Ask yourself, what can I learn? Then release the guilt and move forward with purpose. You don't need to carry the burden of self-punishment. You only need to carry the lessons you've learned, and they will guide you toward a better, stronger future. 9. Forgive yourself aggressively. How many times have you caught yourself thinking about something you did in the past and felt a wave of guilt wash over you? Maybe it was a decision you regret, a mistake you wish you could undo, or a choice that left you with a sense of shame. It's natural to feel remorse over our actions, but here's the truth. Holding on to guilt and regret does nothing but keep you chained to the past. Forgiving yourself truly and aggressively is the key to moving forward and unlocking your potential. Self-forgiveness is often the hardest kind of forgiveness. We might find it easier to forgive others, but when it comes to forgiving ourselves, the weight of our mistakes can feel crushing. We tell ourselves that we should have known better, that we should have done things differently. We may think that by holding on to our guilt, we are somehow making up for what we've done. But that's simply not the case. Carrying guilt doesn't make us better people. It keeps us stuck in the past, preventing us from becoming the person we want to be. The Stoics understood that growth and virtue require self-acceptance. They taught that it's essential to learn from our mistakes, but just as important is to let go of the emotional burden of those mistakes. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And one of the biggest ways we waste time is by continually punishing ourselves for past actions that we can no longer change. When we hold on to guilt, we are wasting the precious present moment. We are allowing the past to govern our emotions and actions instead of using that energy to create the future we desire. Forgiving yourself aggressively means letting go of the past and choosing to move forward without the weight of guilt holding you back. This doesn't mean excusing your mistakes or pretending they didn't happen. It's about acknowledging them, understanding the lessons they brought, and then deciding that they no longer have power over you. It's about saying, "I made that mistake, but it doesn't define me. I am learning from it and I'm moving forward." That shift in mindset is what sets you free. The next time you find yourself wrapped up in regret, ask yourself, what am I holding on to this guilt for? How is this helping me grow? Often you'll realize that it's not helping at all. It's just keeping you stuck in a place of shame and self-doubt. True growth comes from self-compassion, not self-punishment. Forgive yourself as aggressively as you would forgive a close friend. If a friend made a mistake, you would offer understanding, compassion, and support. You deserve that same forgiveness. It's time to let go of the past and embrace the possibility of what's to come. When you forgive yourself, you unlock a new sense of freedom, a freedom to pursue your goals. Without the heavy burden of guilt, you free yourself to act, to try again, and to move forward with strength. You are not defined by your mistakes. You are defined by how you choose to respond to them. So today, make the choice to forgive yourself. Aggressively forgive yourself. Release the guilt, embrace the lesson, and step forward into the person you are becoming. Your future is waiting for you, and it's time to step into it. Unburdened by the past 10, reinvent yourself relentlessly. How many times have you thought, "I've already made so many mistakes, it's too late for me to change"? Maybe you feel like who you were yesterday is who you'll always be, and that your past decisions or mistakes define who you are today. But the truth is, you are under no obligation to be who you were yesterday. You have the power to reinvent yourself relentlessly if necessary, because reinvention is not just a one-time event. It's a continuous process that allows you to step into the life you've always dreamed of. You are not bound by your past. Reinvention is your superpower, and it's one of the most empowering tools you can use to break free from old patterns and become the person you are meant to be. Whether it's changing the way you think, adopting new habits, or taking different actions, you are constantly evolving, and you have the ability to shape who you are at any moment. The Stoics understood this. They believed that we have the power to continuously shape our lives through conscious decisions. Epictetus said the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. This applies not only to the people you surround yourself with, but also to the person you are becoming. Reinventing yourself means making a conscious effort to evolve, to let go of old habits and to embrace new possibilities. One of the most powerful ways to reinvent yourself is to let go of the labels others have given you and the labels you've given yourself. You are not the same person you were last year, last month, or even last week. Every day offers a new opportunity to start fresh, to leave behind who you were and step into who you are becoming. Think about a time when you made a major change in your life. Maybe it was a career shift, a change in your health, or an important relationship transformation. What did you have to do to make that change? You had to take action. You had to choose to let go of the past version of yourself and step into a new identity. That same power exists for you every day. Reinvention doesn't mean starting over from scratch. It means building on who you already are while shedding the limitations you once thought were part of you. The person you were yesterday doesn't have to dictate the person you are today. If you've made mistakes, learned hard lessons, or faced setbacks, those experiences are part of the process, but they don't have to define you. They can fuel your growth, but they don't have to be the story that holds you back. The key to relentless reinvention is commitment. Commit to who you are becoming, not who you've been. Set new goals, break old habits. Embrace new learning, and make consistent efforts to transform your mind, body, and life. Reinvention is about owning your future rather than being a passive observer of it. It is about deciding that you are not bound by your past mistakes and that you have the power to take bold steps toward a new version of yourself. One that's even stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your deepest aspirations. Every time you reinvent yourself, you are becoming a better version of who you were yesterday. So don't wait for permission to change. Reinvent yourself relentlessly. Keep growing, evolving, and stepping into the person you are meant to be. Your future self is waiting for you to show up, and the only person standing in your way is the old version of yourself who's afraid of change. You've now explored how to break free from the chains of your past and create a future that is fully in your control. Remember, your past is part of your story, but it doesn't define you. You have the power to rewrite your narrative, embrace your failures as fuel, and relentlessly reinvent yourself. The road ahead may not always be easy, but by consistently choosing to act in alignment with the person you want to become, you are shaping the life you deserve as you move forward. Keep in mind that every step you take today is an investment in your future. Own your past challenge, your limiting beliefs, and let go of the people or stories that keep you stuck. Create a vision so compelling that it drowns out any doubts or regrets. You have the power to turn your mistakes into lessons and your failures into stepping stones. Start today. Forgive yourself. Act with intention and reinvent who you are at every moment. Your future self is waiting, and it's time to take the first step toward becoming that person. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you can keep moving forward on your journey of self-growth. Remember, the power to transform your life is in your hands. Keep moving forward. Stay focused on your vision and embrace the limitless possibilities ahead.